In a dark room, a trail of blood stained the floor. A woman named Wi Seol-Ah stood over a man lying on the brink of death, her sword pointed at his chest. The man's name was Yangcheon. With cold determination, Wi Seol-Ah demanded to know where the remaining demonic humans were. But Yangcheon remained silent, refusing to utter a single word. Yangcheon couldn't believe the situation he found himself in. The woman standing before him, Wi Seol-Ah, was not just any warrior. She was the direct bloodline disciple of the Sword Supreme, renowned for her unmatched power. She had the ability to slay hundreds of demonic humans with a single strike and had even defeated the heavenly demon responsible for the Great Orthodox Demon War. And yet, here she was, not finishing him off, but instead asking him where the remaining demonic humans were. In that moment, Wi Seol-Ah seized Yangcheon by the neck, her voice laced with anger as she accused him of knowing the whereabouts of the remaining demonic humans. Yet, Yangcheon remained silent, refusing to answer her question. Frustrated, Wi Seol-Ah told him that if he felt even a shred of guilt, he would help her find the rest of the demonic humans. Yangcheon knew exactly where the remaining demonic humans were, but he couldn't say a word to Wi Seol-Ah. His vocal cords had been destroyed, rendering him mute. Worse yet, a curse had been placed on him. If he uttered even a single word, the curse would activate, causing his heart to explode instantly. Tears suddenly welled up in Wi Seol-Ah's eyes as she looked at Yangcheon. "This is your last chance," she said, her voice trembling. She told him that everyone wanted him dead, but she was willing to help him if he revealed the location of the remaining demonic humans. She promised to do everything in her power to save him. Desperation overtook her, and she pleaded with Yangcheon, sobbing uncontrollably as she begged him to give her the answer she so desperately wanted. Yangcheon wondered why Wi Seol-Ah was so desperate to know the location of the remaining demonic humans, to the point of tears. Was it her deep-seated hatred for them that drove her to beg so earnestly? He then realized that it was likely because of her fiancé, Yangcheon, who had been kidnapped by the demonic humans. This, he concluded, was probably the reason she was trying so hard. At that moment, Yangcheon allowed himself a faint smile, thinking it absurd that a woman as powerful as Wi Seol-Ah could be so anxious over a single man, her fiancé. Seeing his smile, Wi Seol-Ah's frustration boiled over, and she angrily threw him to the floor. Her voice seething with anger, she told Yangcheon that if she had known how vile he truly was, she would have killed him the moment they first met. Wi Seol-Ah told Yangcheon that she regretted not killing him the first time they met. Yangcheon paused, confused by her words. He wondered what moment she was referring to, suspecting that her memory of their first meeting was different from his own. As he reflected, memories of their past flooded back, the time when they were both just children, meeting for the first time. He couldn't help but wonder where things had gone so wrong, and how it had come to this, him on the brink of death, and Wi Seol-Ah prepared to end his life. At that moment, Yangcheon reflected on his past and realized that he had betrayed countless people and sided with the demonic humans. He concluded that everything happening to him now might be karma catching up with him for all the wrongs he had committed. As Wi Seol-Ah wiped her tears and prepared to leave, frustrated by Yangcheon's silence, she heard a noise behind her. Wi Seol-Ah turned around and saw Yangcheon trying to write something on the floor with his blood. She asked him what he was doing, but just then, the curse activated. Determined to reveal everything despite knowing the risk, Yangcheon continued to write, even though he knew it could cost him his life and cause his heart to explode. As the curse activated, a gush of blood erupted from Yangcheon's mouth, signaling that his heart was on the brink of exploding. The curse, known as the Heavenly Demon's demonic art, was designed by the demon cult to prevent any betrayal. If Yangcheon broke the conditions, the curse would trigger, causing his heart to burst and killing him instantly. Even though Yangcheon knew that revealing the secret would mean his death, he no longer cared and continued to write on the floor with his blood, determined to expose the truth to Wi Seol-Ah. As he did, he began to lose consciousness more and more, drawing closer to death. Seeing this, Wi Seol-Ah grew anxious and approached him, asking if he was okay as he suddenly started bleeding profusely. However, Yangcheon could barely hear her through the blur of his dying state. Wi Seol-Ah urged Yangcheon to stop writing, seeing the pain it was causing him. Meanwhile, Ji-Yu Yangcheon wondered how things might have turned out if he could have revealed the entire truth, that he had been framed and was not acting of his own free will. He questioned whether, if she had known the truth, Wi Seol-Ah would have seen him differently and believed his side of the story. Ji-Yu Yangcheon then continued writing, telling himself it was too late to dwell on what might have been, as he could no longer change the past. He completed his final message with his blood on the floor, and by then, the curse had fully activated, causing his heart to explode. As he lay there, lifeless, he wondered why he had to live such a tragic life. At that moment, Ji-Yu Yangcheon was overwhelmed by flashbacks of his past, recalling the immense suffering he had endured and how his loved ones had also shared in his pain. Meanwhile, Wi Seol-Ah, holding Ji-Yu Yangcheon in her arms, wept uncontrollably upon seeing his condition, realizing that he was no longer alive. Ji-Yu Yangcheon, of the Shaanxi Ji-Yu clan, was born into a prestigious family within the Orthodox faction and lived as a respected martial artist. However, after betraying his roots and turning to the demonic side, he found himself on the losing side of the Great Orthodox Demon War. Captured as a prisoner of war, Ji-Yu Yangcheon endured severe torture before meeting his end. As Ji-Yu Yangcheon took his last breath and closed his eyes, he heard a voice asking him if he wanted any potatoes. When he opened his eyes again, he was shocked to see a young Wi Seol-Ah standing in front of him. Bewildered, he wondered what was happening, as he distinctly remembered dying and yet found himself standing there, facing her as a child. Ji-Yu Yangcheon was bewildered, unable to understand what was happening. He was certain he had violated the heavenly demon's prohibition, leading to his heart exploding and his life ending in Wi Seol-Ah's arms. Yet, here he was, alive, with his heart beating normally as if nothing had ever happened. Ji-Yu Yangcheon then examined his surroundings and his own body, realizing that everything had changed. He had reverted to the body of his childhood. At that moment, he wondered if he might be dreaming, though he was puzzled as to why he would be dreaming about the time he first met Wi Seol-Ah. Ji-Yu Yangcheon recalled the first time he met Wi Seol-Ah. She had approached him, offering a potato for him to eat, but he had refused her gesture, throwing the potato to the ground. He remembered his anger at her offering such a modest food, which he deemed beneath his standards. He had also scolded her, telling her to know her place and never to offer him something so insignificant again. Reflecting on that moment now, Ji-Yu Yangcheon regretted his actions and thought that he should never have treated Wi Seol-Ah so harshly. Ji-Yu Yangcheon resolved not to repeat his past mistake and decided to treat Wi Seol-Ah kindly, even if this was merely a dream. At that moment, Wi Seol-Ah, with a sad expression, asked him if he didn't like the potato she had given him. Before she could continue, Ji-Yu Yangcheon interrupted her, took the potato from her hand, and smiled as he thanked her for the food. He took a bite, only to immediately regret it as the potato was still very hot, burning his tongue and causing him to scream out in pain. Wi Seol-Ah, seeing Ji-Yu Yangcheon struggling with the hot potato, couldn't help but smile and laugh as she noticed his face turn red from the burn. Just then, one of Ji-Yu Yangcheon's bodyguards, Muyan, arrived. Addressing him as young master, Muyan expressed his concern over Ji-Yu Yangcheon's sudden disappearance. He added that he had been worried something might have happened to him. As Muyan saw Ji-Yu Yangcheon's burnt tongue from the hot potato, his concern deepened. Muyan, seeing Ji-Yu Yangcheon's condition, became enraged and directed his anger at Wi Seol-Ah, blaming her for harming his master. As he reached for his sword to punish her, Ji-Yu Yangcheon intervened, assuring Muyan that he was fine. Ji-Yu Yangcheon then asked Muyan to hand over the honey cookie he was holding. Muyan hesitated, explaining that it was the last cookie he had, but Ji-Yu Yangcheon took it and handed it to Wi Seol-Ah. Muyan was stunned, watching in shock as Ji-Yu Yangcheon gave away his last honey cookie to someone else. Wi Seol-Ah, seeing Ji-Yu Yangcheon's gesture, asked if he was really giving her his last cookie. Ji-Yu Yangcheon confirmed that he was, smiling shyly as he explained that, since she had given him a delicious potato, it was only right for him to offer something in return. Hearing this, Wi Seol-Ah's face lit up with happiness and excitement. She started to drool, overwhelmed by the sweet aroma of the cookie, as it was the first time she had encountered something so delightful. As Wi Seol-Ah continued to drool over the cookie, her grandfather came running, calling out her name with concern. Seeing him, Wi Seol-Ah rushed to him and embraced him. Her grandfather, relieved to find that she was safe and unharmed, felt a wave of relief wash over him. Wi Seol-Ah's grandfather, visibly worried, scolded her for letting go of his hand and disappearing, expressing his deep concern. Wi Seol-Ah interrupted him, reassuring him not to worry and mentioning that she had even managed to get the potato they were going to buy. Despite her reassurance, her grandfather remained anxious and asked again if she was truly all right. Yangcheon, observing Wi Seol-Ah, was reminded of the past and recalled who her grandfather had been. At that moment, Wi Seol-Ah spoke up, telling her grandfather that she had given one of the potatoes to Yangcheon, pointing him out. Upon seeing Yangcheon, her grandfather quickly grasped Wi Seol-Ah's hand and, bowing his head deeply, offered his sincere apologies to Yangcheon. The grandfather then added that his granddaughter, being inexperienced, had committed a serious offense against Yangcheon, who was a master of a prestigious family. He expressed his sincere apologies, telling Yangcheon that he was truly sorry if Wi Seol-Ah had offended him in any way. Yangcheon assured Wi Seol-Ah's grandfather that he didn't mind at all and that it was fine. He added that, if anything, he should be the one thanking Wi Seol-Ah. Yangcheon explained that he had been hungry and was grateful that Wi Seol-Ah had been there to give him a potato, which he had enjoyed eating. As he spoke, Yangcheon bowed to them as a sign of appreciation. He then offered Wi Seol-Ah a honey cookie, presenting it to her and asking if she would accept it. Although Wi Seol-Ah's grandfather remained doubtful, he was interrupted by Wi Seol-Ah, who excitedly assured them that she was more than happy to receive the honey cookie. Just as Wi Seol-Ah reached for the honey cookie, her grandfather grabbed her by the waist, panicked, and insisted that they could not accept such a precious gift, believing they did not deserve something so valuable. Wi Seol-Ah's grandfather then told Yangcheon that they would not trouble him any further and would leave immediately. As Wi Seol-Ah's grandfather was about to make his exit, Yangcheon called out to him, asking him to wait a moment. Wi Seol-Ah's grandfather turned to face Yangcheon, worried that he might be truly angry with Wi Seol-Ah and preparing to apologize for her actions. However, just then, Yangcheon took Wi Seol-Ah's hand and handed her the cookie as a token of thanks for the potatoes she had given him earlier. Her grandfather was stunned by Yangcheon's kindness and relieved that they had not been punished. They expressed their gratitude once more before departing. As soon as they had left, Yangcheon breathed a sigh of relief. Muyeon, noticing his nervousness, asked if he was uncomfortable while speaking with them. However, Yangcheon remained silent, aware that his unease stemmed from being the only one who knew the true identity of Wi Seol-Ah's grandfather from the past. Wi Seol-Ah's grandfather, Wi Hyogen, was someone Yangcheon remembered from the past. Wi Hyogen had held the position of Murim Alliance leader until recently and was also one of the three Supremes known as the Sword Supreme. The three Supremes were revered as the strongest in Murim, spreading fear and terror among the unorthodox factions. Yangcheon wondered why the Sword Supreme was in a place like this and thought to himself that, even though this was just a dream, he had come close to being killed by the Sword Supreme. At that moment, Wi Seol-Ah turned around and waved goodbye to Yangcheon. Yangcheon smiled warmly as he watched her. At that moment, Muyeon suggested that they head back to their place, and Yangcheon agreed. He thought to himself that he had no more regrets and that it was time for him to wake up from his dream. However, Yangcheon was both annoyed and confused, as despite reaching home, he found himself still trapped in the dream. He wondered why the dream had not ended yet and thought that, if it were truly a dream, he should have already awakened. Yangcheon then speculated that if this wasn't a dream, it might be connected to the heavenly demon's curse. As Yangcheon continued to contemplate the situation, a voice spoke up. When he turned to locate the source of the voice, he saw that it was his second older sister, Yangcheon, also known as Flame Sword Yangcheon. Yangcheon felt troubled by her presence, as she was the one who despised him the most. Yangcheon approached him and remarked, with a hint of disdain, that it was quite surprising to see Yangcheon, who had never attended a clan meeting before, appearing here now. Yangcheon, smirking, added that if Yangcheon intended to come to the clan meeting to cause trouble, he should leave before things worsened. Yangcheon, brushing off her remarks, replied that he was only there out of necessity and that, Since he had never attended any clan meetings before, he would apologize to the clan head later. Ji-yu Yonseo, upon hearing this, became both annoyed and angry. Ji-yu Yonseo, shouting in anger and releasing her power, told Ji-yu Yangcheon that she didn't know what trick he was planning this time, but he should stop immediately as his behavior had made her extremely angry. At that moment, Ji-yu Yangcheon told his elder sister to calm down and informed her that their father, the clan head, had arrived. Their father, arriving on horseback, asked them what the commotion was about. As the patriarch arrived, everyone, including Ji-yu Yangcheon, greeted him respectfully. Although Ji-yu Yangcheon greeted his father, he noticed that his father was looking at him with suspicion, which made him feel uneasy. The patriarch then dismounted from his horse and asked one of his subordinates if there was a sword unit available. The subordinate responded that the first sword unit was resting after a recent mission, while the fourth sword unit was currently on standby. The patriarch instructed his subordinate to have the fourth sword unit complete their preparations and report to him. Ji-yu Yangcheon thought to himself that he couldn't tell if this was a dream or not, but the weight of his father's gaze was as burdensome as ever. While Ji-yu Yangcheon was still lost in his thoughts, the patriarch instructed him to meet privately after the meal. Ji-yu Yangcheon, feeling both worried and scared, immediately asked his bodyguard Muyan if he had any digestive pills. He feared he wouldn't be able to digest his food due to his nerves about the upcoming meeting with his father. After a few moments, Ji-yu Yangcheon, his elder sister Ji-yu Yonseo, and their father were dining together in the same room. Ji-yu Yangcheon thought to himself that the meal was as tense and awkward as ever, and due to his nervousness, he wasn't sure if he was eating the food with his mouth or his nose. The silence at the table was uncomfortable, and Ji-yu Yangcheon wished someone would break the awkward atmosphere, especially given that his father had summoned him for a private discussion later. Their father then called out his second child, Ji-yu Yonseo, and informed her that he had heard about her recent achievement in martial arts. With a beaming smile, Ji-yu Yonseo told the patriarch that she had experienced a minor breakthrough and had recently reached the rank of 3-star. Her father, pleased with her progress, expressed pride and commended her for her advancement at such a young age. He encouraged her to continue her diligent training and remain dedicated to her development. As Ji-yu Yonseo thanked her father for his words, Ji-yu Yangcheon reflected on how impressive it was that his elder sister had achieved 3-star status at such a young age. He thought it was no surprise, given her natural talent and relentless work ethic. Her success seemed inevitable due to her exceptional abilities and dedication. Ji-yu Yangcheon, observing his elder sister Ji-yu Yonseo, noted how her smile brightened when their father praised her. He thought she would look even more radiant if she smiled more often. However, just then, Ji-yu Yonseo glanced at him with a look of disgust, as if he were an insect. At that moment, their father called Ji-yu Yangcheon over and mentioned that he had heard Ji-yu Yangcheon had been out on the streets. Ji-yu Yangcheon explained that he had briefly gone out for some business. Their father then decided to excuse himself from the meal, instructing his children to continue eating and finish their meal. Ji-yu Yangcheon was puzzled by his father's actions. It seemed as though his father had intended to say something but ultimately chose not to. As Ji-yu Yangcheon wondered why his father had previously requested a private meeting, one of the maids approached him. She informed Ji-yu Yangcheon that his father had instructed him to rest well that day and to come to the clan head's room the next day for their private meeting. After finishing his meal, Ji-yu Yangcheon returned to his room, deep in thought about why his father wanted to meet with him privately. He also considered that, since he had not woken up from what he had initially believed to be a dream, this might not be a dream at all. Instead, it could be real life, and he might be experiencing a regression, something he had only heard about before. Ji-yu Yangcheon then wondered whether this situation could be an opportunity for him to defeat the heavenly demon. However, he quickly dismissed the idea, realizing that he was not powerful enough to confront such a formidable foe. He recalled that the heavenly demon had single-handedly defeated all 3 supremes, who were considered to be unparalleled in power. Given this, Ji-yu Yangcheon felt he would stand no chance against such a formidable adversary. As Ji-yu Yangcheon reflected on his past life as a damned demonic human, living under the control of the heavenly demon and forced to obey to survive, he was overwhelmed by a deep sense of regret. However, He also recognized that these regrets had imparted a crucial realization. If he were truly reborn, he would choose a different path from his previous life. Yangcheon reflected on his past life, recalling that Wi Seol-Ah would ultimately defeat the heavenly demon and that the demonic cult would be vanquished. He decided that until those events unfolded, he would live a quiet life. With renewed determination, Yangcheon vowed not to repeat the regrets of his previous existence. At that moment, Yangcheon activated his internal energy to assess its current level, only to be disappointed by the meager amount he possessed. Observing his internal energy made him clearly aware of how remarkable his sister was in comparison. Despite being only 1 year older than him, she had already achieved 3-star status. But Yangcheon refused to be discouraged and was determined not to give up easily. He knew that he wasn't powerless and had options to improve his situation. One of his resources was the Gu Flame Wheel art, a cultivation technique passed down only to blood relatives of the Gu clan. Yangcheon began to diligently practice the art, aiming to strengthen and expand his internal energy. By cultivating his internal energy gradually, Yangcheon knew that once he reached the 4-star level, he would be able to emit flaming eternal energy. At the 7-star level, he could wrap this energy around his body, effectively merging it with himself. Currently, as a 1-star, Yangcheon realized that he needed to focus on advancing to 2-star first. To achieve this, he needed to accumulate internal energy as quickly as possible and refine it until he reached the 2-star level. Yangcheon reflected that, to lead a smoother life compared to his past, he should rely on developing his own strength rather than borrowing the powers of demonic humans. As he concentrated on cultivating his internal energy, he faced a critical issue. Continuing any further for the day could potentially endanger his life. Recognizing this risk, Yangcheon decided to stop his training for the day. Exhausted and lying on the floor, Yangcheon thought about how challenging it was to use his internal energy with his current abilities. He worried that continuing to push himself might lead to energy deviation. Despite this, he smiled to himself, pleased with the progress he had made. Even though he was still in the early stages, he had successfully reached the 2-star level. Yangcheon resolved to advance steadily, neither rushing nor dragging his progress. He vowed to make his new life different from his past one, avoiding any actions that might negatively impact his future. The next morning, Yangcheon awoke to find his entire body aching, despite having trained only briefly. He realized that his lack of prior training had made his body unaccustomed to sudden, intense exertion. Yangcheon understood that he faced a long and challenging journey ahead and resolved to work diligently if he wanted to succeed. Yangcheon grabbed the door handle, planning to train until his meeting with the clan head in the afternoon. However, as soon as he opened the door, he was surprised to find Wi Seol-Ah sitting on the floor right outside his room, smiling up at him. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.